And so, as you know, I was doing the Instacart job, and one day I was working in East Pensacola, which for those Pensacolians and Floridians, the east side of Pensacola is usually the more dangerous part of Pensacola, the less touristy side. So I had a delivery order. I went in to pick up from Publix. I went to deliver to this nice woman's house. And when I got to the house, she asks me, "Where have you been?" So I responded, "I've been on my way. I had one delivery before yours that was at the hospital. That was next to your home." And so it continued. She was on the phone with somebody, I could tell, but she was not happy, to say the least. She said things like, "Why are you at my door?" And I responded with things like, "I have your groceries, ma'am." But it turns out she was on the phone with Instacart, the company who I was working for, and she was not happy. She said she threatened to kill the person on the other side of the phone. And I'm all just standing at the front door with 2 full bags of groceries, and she repeatedly told me to quit with my antics, and I don't know what my antics were, but she just said, "Stop those antics, stop those antics."
She used the word antics?
She said antics, ANTICS, and continued to threaten lives of the people around her. So finally she put Instacart guy on the speakerphone, and the Instacart guy said, "Mr. Martin, you can leave now." Take the groceries with you.
Before you get shot.
Yeah. And so I left with the groceries, and my life was threatened, and I never saw the woman again. And that's the story of the Instacart days in the East Pensacola. But brother, how was your week? It's been 7 days, and last week we really left off in a time crunch, so we're going to try not to do that this time.
We did. There at the end, it seemed like it was a little crazy, chaotic, and we were pretty much, diving out of the episode as fast as we could get there. I do have a question from your opening little monologue there. What kind of good little, goodies did you get out of this thing? Because you got to keep the groceries, right?
Well, the thing is, Instacart has a policy where if you you're supposed to return the groceries to the store, and they'll give you $10. Now, these were probably $400 to $300 in groceries that I had, so a lot more than $10. But me being the good citizen I am, I returned the groceries, except the perishable items. They can't take back perishable items. So I'll tell you what I got. I got some frozen lemonade. For one. Oh. That's still in my parents' freezer. This was 4 years ago. I got some chicken wings. But I think the best thing that I got was Klondike bars.
Oh.
Ooh, is right. It's got me salivating myself right this instant. But I remember my parents at that time were on a trip to Greece, I believe. So I was at home alone for 14 days, and I just ate Klondike bars every day.
I was about to say, I know you're just sitting at home in your underwear, feet kicked up, Klondike wrappers all around you, bro.
Yes. So that was probably the best that I got. In hindsight, I asked Instacart, "Yo, can I get a little more than $10? Because my life was kind of threatened." And They said, "No, you can't." Sorry, that's too bad. So that's life, I reckon.
That's a shame, truly. Well, I'll say this week for me work was a little bit more chill, so that was awesome. Probably because I only worked 4.5 days, Monday to Friday. I did work Saturday, but Wednesday I had jury duty.
Oh.
And I had never been called for jury duty before. So as you can imagine, my mind is racing. I don't even know if I've ever been in a courthouse before. I've never really been in trouble with the law or anything like that, but
You've always evaded them on your morning walks.
I've always evaded them. They never got me, booked me, the old cuff and stop, as they say. But yeah, I was just thinking it was going to be like the show Jury Duty.
You were
which
set
is
up?
honestly within, I guess it was, I don't know when I first saw it. It was probably a few months ago. But as a sidebar, you have to go watch Jury Duty. I know you've seen it, but to our listeners out there, it is so funny. Language is so-so, but at the end, it's just so heartwarming and just so redeeming. It's so good. But I was really, as soon as I walked in, I was looking for hidden cameras everywhere, because I was thinking I was going to be on the next, the next season of Jury Duty. Anyways, I go, it's in downtown Bradenton. And so I get there, I park in the parking garage, and you're supposed to be there at 8 to check in. And I park in the garage and get out of my truck, and it's 7:54, and I've got like a 2-minute walk to the courthouse. I'm like, oh, I timed this perfectly. I'm good. Little did I know that courthouse security is like tighter than TSA. I get up there and I'm like, oh, they'll make me, empty my pockets and just go through the, metal detector. They're like, you need to take off your belt. You need to take off your shoes. You need to empty your pockets. If you have any wiring, that you got surgically, you need to take that out too. Like, they were so strict, bro. And so I get up there, and it's, 7:58 at this point. I'm like, geez, I didn't know this was going to be like getting into Fort Knox to go do jury duty. And I go to take off my belt, and it breaks, bro. And there's like 30 people behind me watching me in line. And they're like looking at their watches like, oh, freak, I'm going to be late for jury duty. And so it's one of those cheap fake leather belts. I bought it at Target because I was in a crunch, because my last crappy belt broke, at a bad time. And the same thing happened this time. And so it didn't break completely. It only broke, you've got like leather on both sides, and then the hole in the middle. Only one side of the leather broke. So it's hanging on by a thread. And so instead of just pulling the belt out in one big swoop, I had to manually loop it through each hole, dude. Every belt loop. And these people are looking at me, like, I hear grumbling behind me. I'm starting to sweat because it's 8:01 and I still haven't got my dang belt off yet. But man, I finally made it up through there, and we sat there for about 3.5 hours, and they said, guess what? You can go home. They settled the case before it even went to trial. So a little later that day, I was locking up at work, and I bent over to pick up like the lock for our gate, and that was the final straw for my belt. As you can see here for our YouTube viewers, my beaten and battered belt has officially met its match. So I feel like this could be like kind of like our UFC, our WWE belt here.
True.
The championship belt.
We need a sponsor for belts now.
That's so true. Like a leather.
If any of our listeners have a connection to belt manufacturers, we will look into being sponsored by them.
Right. And it'd be great if they did like cowboy boots too. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, we could show them off on the show. We could even give them a discount, probably.
Yeah, true.
I'll tell you this. If you were on jury duty, the show, that would be an amazing way to start off your TV acting career.
No one would believe it, man. They'd be like, oh, this is, when they watch it, they'd be like, this is so staged. This crazy stuff never happens. And guess what? It happens, man. I'll say it. But people were showing up at like 8:45. I was like, I'm trying to be, an upstanding citizen here, serve as a juror, and these people are showing up in dang pajamas 45 minutes late. So that made me feel a little bit better about myself. But other than that, I went to work on Saturday, and so we're going around, we're doing like punch list type stuff, and I had to do some work above ceiling, so I'd take out a ceiling tile, and I use my phone as a flashlight, do what I have to do, put the ceiling tile back, go back to work. About 2.5 hours later, I'm patting my pockets, no phone. I'm like, oh gosh, this building's 100,000 square feet. It could literally be anywhere in here. So I go around, it takes me about 30 minutes, but I finally walk in a room and I look above the ceiling and there's this glowing orb up in the ceiling. I'm like, oh, well, that's great. I found my phone and it is on 2% because the flashlight's been on for 2.5 hours. So,
praise the Lord, the flashlight was on. I bet
True.
you would not have found it if it wasn't.
No, because it was on vibrate, and I was thinking in my head while I was looking for it, I was like, man, we've been dogging all these people for being addicted to their phones like the past month, and I'm just going to go straight up lose mine like an old man. But those were really the two exciting parts of my week. I don't know what you've been up to, but it's going to be tough to top that.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I'm not topping that. There's just... Sometimes my weeks run together because, one, a lot can happen, and two, I have a lot of routines that I do that they are kind of the same. And so, what's not the same that happened this week was our 5th Unity Party cabinet meeting occurred. And honestly, I think we've weeded out some bad cookies.
To say the least.
Yeah, that's the nicest way to say it. So we're just like any refining process. You get a lot at the beginning, and then a lot go away that weren't actually committed, and then
The rotten eggs, so to speak.
the rotten eggs, yeah, and then the chickens are thriving now.
Amen.
And so that now the chickens are able to work with hens to produce more eggs. If you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're running around here.
This is all analogous to how to build something that will last, all rooted in the good Lord. So one of the things that happened is our listeners are going to be listening to this on Monday. So if you're listening to this on Monday, November 6th, you have an opportunity to order a Unity Party calendar until November 9th. And Brett will share a little bit about what that calendar can be used for right now.
Yeah, so it's a great little desk calendar. Each month has a picture of Bo, and it's really got this cool branding that kind of matches the rest of the Unity Party, but it also has a synonym for the word unity on it. So you're increasing your vocabulary. You got this cool, man, it's so cool, this cool little calendar that you could set right on your desk, and it's a conversation starter, right? Because someone could walk in, you say, please have a seat. They look and they say, oh, what's this Saturday? And you can say, oh, let's look at this calendar here. And they would say, who's that guy? Who's that really handsome fella on your calendar? You'll say, well, that's, interesting that you asked that, because that's who I'll be voting for in this election this coming November. So that's it's a conversation starter, and also I believe they're $15, and you get 12 months, for $15. That's the full year. and any proceeds that we make off this, I think maybe $1.50 from each calendar, we're going to put in a big pot, and we're going to give it to Night to Shine, which is an awesome outreach started by Tim Tebow. So it's really just a win-win on all fronts.
Yeah, that's a great description. You couldn't have described it better. I didn't make it. Our Minister of Propaganda, Evan Haynes, did. And you can find all that information on flobo.com. And that's spelled FLEAUBO.com. And that wasn't even a sponsored ad. That was just a care for our listeners.
Yep.
Finally, what happened in my week? As you know, I like to play a little pickleball on the weekends with my friend Connor. And wouldn't you know it, that I've run into an author at the pickleball courts.
Oh, wow.
His name's Tom Lane, and he is quite the guy. That is just how I would describe him. He is, I would say, 85-ish years old.
85?
85. He's moving. He moves. It's slow, but he's still moving. He has lived quite the life. And we were getting into talks about our beliefs and such. And it turns out he grew up Episcopalian, but is now Catholic. His wife of 50 years was Catholic, so he converted to Catholicism.
Yeah.
And I was just asking, like, what that looked like, and where he went around, and what his life was like. And he told me he was an author, and I'm going to tell you this book that he wrote, and I'm going to tell you about the book that he wrote. This is not a sponsorship, but it's such a unique person to meet, it seems. So the book is called Sacred Mushroom Rituals, The Search for the Blood of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl. All right? Sacred Mushroom Rituals. So he was explaining to me that he went on a journey to study psychedelics and mushrooms specifically. And I asked him, have you taken mushrooms? And he said, yeah.
Well, naturally. You wrote the book on it, you know?
So Sacred Mushroom Rituals, The Search for the Blood of Quetzalcoatl. And I'll read a little description. After leaving his job as a forest ranger on Hoopa Indian Reservation in California, Tom Lane spent 9 months in 1973 living in the jungles of Palenque in the Sierra Madres del Pacifico of Oaxaca, training with one of the curandero and 2 curanderas, learning the ancient sacred rituals of healing, divination, and spiritual traveling through the sacred mushroom ceremonies. These ancient rituals were forbidden to outsiders, are revealed, some for the first time, in this extraordinary journey into the world of the Mayans, Zapotec, and Mazatec, written from Tom's diary while through hiking the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine in 2016. I felt as if I was on mushrooms while reading that description.
I totally followed it the whole way. I'm like, all right, he's down in South America, you know, Aztec and Mayan culture. We're getting into it. And then he's like, all the while hiking the Appalachian Trail? Like, where did that come from?
But I'm telling you, this is exactly... So I've talked to this man a few times, and this is how... This description is a good description of how our conversations are. He's always on to the next thing. And it looks like... It looks... I don't get it. I know he journeyed in the jungles. 100%. That's what he told me. But he also... I guess he was recounting all of his experience when he was hiking the Appalachian Trail. And this book, it says it was originally written for his 3 sons and his adopted Vietnamese daughter.
Oh. Sounds like he was journeying through the jungle of his own mind with these these dang mushrooms, you know?
Yes. And,
Golly.
here, it's also about, it's where he met their mother, his wife, Shelley, who is the Catholic woman who
Right.
he converted to Catholicism for, during a velada at the home of Maria Sabina during his second excursion to the Hualta de Jimenez. He did mention Maria Sabina. Have you ever heard of that name?
Never have.
All right, that's tough. I hadn't either, but it sounded like she was famous. All right, so just to give our listeners, I'm spending way too much time on this, I think, but I also think it's fascinating.
I love it, dude.
I met this guy on the pickle courts. 4.5 stars on Amazon with 54 ratings, which is not bad.
Okay.
You want to guess how much the paperback version of this book is?
I'm sure it's outrageous.
I'll let you guess.
Okay. I don't know, $40.
It's actually pretty close. It's $48.19.
Oh my gracious. I can't even imagine what the hardback is. It's like $300 to talk about some 80-year-old's trip while he's on shrooms. Honestly, might be worth it.
Yes.
I really might have to go get this and add it to the collection.
Well,
my Goodreads
whenever I was
is going
talking,
to be my Goodreads is going to be popping off after I add this review.
whenever I was talking to him, I told him I was gonna buy. I asked him if his book was on Amazon. I said I'd buy it. And then I went home and looked at his book. I said, I'm not buying this unless we get some more merch sales.
I was about to say, we're going to have to sell like 50 sweatshirts to be able to afford this book.
Oh, but there's Tom Lane. I think we should write a book on Tom Lane writing a book in the Appalachian Trails about him writing a book in the jungle.
So this is nonfiction, obviously. It's like a diary. It's based on his diary entries as he explores the Aztec wilderness of North Georgia.
Correct.
Okay. I think we really could write a fiction book and have the protagonist be Tom Lane. Because, I mean, that's Tom Lane. Are you kidding? That's the perfect name for a general fiction protagonist. So, man, that's a little summer project for next year is what it sounds like.
Yes. So the description goes on. It's about it. I would encourage our listeners to read this description because it's probably half the book. That's how long it is. But
jeez,
that's Tom Lane for you. This is the rest of this description is honestly gold content, but we would be sitting here for probably 20 minutes reading it.
The rest of the podcast.
Yes. I'll just read one more sentence.
Okay.
Then 3 hours later, after singing to the live flowers of the blood in baskets, eat the sacrament covered in raw honey, never swallowing. You masticate 100% without swallowing. 100% psilocin glucose blood transfusion directly to the brain, spine, and ventral aorta of the pumping alive heart. Quetzalcoatl is not a myth. The diamond healing rainbow, diamond serpent of kindness, empathy, and love will met and consume you in white light. The secret of the ancient disembodied eye is revealed.
My freaking eyes are spinning into the back of my head, bro. Just reading this, dude, I'm going to another dimension.
Oh my goodness. This is incredible. Oh, I'm so glad I met this man.
What a treasure, man. This dude is a national treasure.
Yes, so there's your directions.
Man, I don't even... If I read this book on a weekend, and I came into work on Monday and just started talking utter. I mean, maybe it's not nonsense, but just this madness, I'd probably get fired from my job. But look, it might be worth it. So
Hey, well, I don't think Tom Lane has a job. He might be retired, or he's made enough money off of his $48 books.
he's only got to sell 5 books, and he's got his retirement right there.
Oh, man. Well, what have you been seeing in the sports world? That was my week, so I feel like the sacred sacred mushroom might amount to the ceiling phone, but maybe not to the jury duty belt.
Oh, well, we talked a lot about Rangers, baseball, Major League Baseball. Guess what, folks? They ended up doing it all. And congrats to them. I think it's their first MLB World Series championship win. So, look, they went out there and they got it done. Congrats to them. They pulled all the right strings there at the trade deadline. Got the right folks in, and congrats to them. That's it's pretty exciting stuff for the city of Dallas. You know, they're used to being successful. Well, I would say with football, a long time ago they were really successful in football. But I'm sure it's good to get that feeling back in the city. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the Alabama LSU game. Honestly, I went to sleep at halftime because I was exhausted. But the next morning, this morning, I woke up and I saw a replay of this dude. I think it's a inside linebacker for Alabama. He hits Jaden Daniels, which is LSU's quarterback. Takes the top of his head and puts it right underneath his chin.
Oh boy!
And then just slams him to the ground with his forehead. These days, that's not really allowed. I think they called a 15-yard penalty for maybe unnecessary roughness, but they didn't call targeting, even though I think it met 2 of the 3 qualifiers for targeting. So, you can say that's, Alabama officiating, whatever you want to call it. But he was knocked out. I don't know if he was knocked out cold, but he certainly has a concussion. So, long story short, my point of telling this story is I don't know if he's going to be able to play next week against the Florida Gators. And I'm not saying I want people to get concussions. It's not good. I condemn concussions of all sorts. But if we have to play their backup quarterback, we might just have a chance. We're really bad, but we might have a chance. So it'll be exciting to see after we lose to Arkansas in overtime. But, thanks to Bama, they're out here knocking folks out, not getting penalties called, and we love them for it, really.
Yeah. What's funny is, Stephen Chauncey.
Well, yep.
He is good friends with the LSU backup quarterback, old Nussmeier, as they call him.
Really?
Really. So maybe Stephen Chauncey has a little insight into the game plan for the
that'd be
Louisiana
great.
State Tigers. Well, I'll be honest with you. I had no faith in the Texas Rangers to pull it off, but they did, and I'm happy. It was good. Did you see that the New York City Marathon happened today?
I did not watch that. I know it was a thriller, but I didn't sit there for the whole thing.
Oh,
I just caught the first couple minutes. The first couple minutes when they shoot the gun and there's like 30 people just get trampled at the very beginning. That's the only part of these races I like, but I did not watch the end.
All right, so I'll tell you. Tamirat Tola for the men's division, he's Ethiopian, finished in a course record 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 58 seconds. Now, that's 26.2 miles in 2 hours. So if we look at that, 60 times 2 is 120, and you're going 26 miles in 120 minutes. Come on, do the math. How fast is that?
.6.
That's 4 minutes and 60 seconds per mile?
Well, 4 minutes and 60 seconds would be 5 minutes.
You're right. So
it's
4
probably
minutes
close
and
to
30
4 minutes
seconds.
and 35, 40 seconds. Oh, yeah, 35.
That's just incredible.
That's moving.
That is moving. And who would we be if we did not mention the women's results? We would be sexist, and we are not sexist. So Helen Obiri paced at 2 hours, 27 minutes, and 23 seconds. So congratulations to Helen. Congratulations to Tamirat. The women's race was a lot closer. Only 6 seconds between first and second place.
Could you imagine, dude? You just ran 26 miles and you're neck and neck. Just the mental toughness, digging deep, sprinting the last quarter mile, and you got this other chick right on your heels. Golly. I can't imagine it. I'm out of breath just thinking about it.
Yeah. I'm trying to, but I've never done it, so.
You're like, I've never been in a foot race in my life. I can't. I couldn't even think of it.
I'm usually way behind the fast people and way ahead of people like my brother, Boom Roasted. Shout out Jackson if you're listening.
Oh, well, that's great news. Congrats to those winners of that marathon there. I mentioned earlier, the running community is unique. That's a nice way of putting it. But yeah, congrats to them. I know a lot of hard work went into that. So, but me personally, I woke up the other day with a pain in my side. After going to the doctor, they said I had one of the worst cases of the heebie-jeebies that they've ever seen. Funny enough, they recommended a book on mushrooms. Thank you, Tom Lane. I reported them to the board of directors, and they got fired after that because mushrooms aren't really approved by the FDA. They should be, but that's a discussion for another day. Kids, this is a lesson to never go to a doctor's office in the middle of a park during your 5 a.m. walk. So, these doctors that I thought were doctors are out in the field. I go for a walk, and I look off in this middle of the soccer field, and I'm like, there's like 4 guys in a circle huddled around out there. What's going, I got this pain in my side from all this exercise, the heebie-jeebies with, Halloween. And I walk over there and they say, hey, I'll cure your heebie-jeebies. Drink some of this dang mushroom soup. And that's when I realized that they're not actually doctors. So this isn't really an advertisement. This is just kind of a warning to kiddos out there. If you're ever out walking and you see guys, with a small fire, they're moving in a circular fashion around it, don't assume that they're doctors like I did. So.
Are you sure you weren't on the Appalachian Trail?
It was way too flat to be the Appalachian Trail, but after I drank their medicinal soup, I certainly felt like an Aztec god. I'll say that. I was ready to drink dang Coatlicotl's blood. You know what I'm saying? I felt like Mansa Musa.
I'm moving different. This ain't nothing to me, man. Oh, man. Speaking of things not being nothing to him, let's talk more about Jay Briggity, because quite frankly, we posted that video about Jay Briggity as a reply to his comment. And you remember how last week we talked about him replying 13 different things?
I think it was 7, but yeah.
7? Well, this time it was 14.
He upped it for sure.
A little double or nothing. I'm just going to pull up some comments here, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, if you want to share them. First, we must shout out Jacob Sparks. He says, quite frankly, 1, Jay Briggity, 0.
The people have spoken.
So Jay Briggity started off with, I wasn't very clear, so I'll spell it out better, because it was a rant. So 1, he was humble in his response. He admitted that it was a rant, and he didn't.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness is at an all-time high. He starts off with saying, you read the Bible, you say, I believe in this, I'm going to make any and all decisions after consulting how I believe Jesus would want me to act. I think that's incredible. We should read the Bible and make any and all decisions after consulting how we believe Jesus would want me to act. I would actually change that to all believe Jesus would act. And yeah. Also, consult with other people. Wise is the one who seeks the counsel of many. So if you're just doing your consulting with yourself, then you're probably gonna be more prone to doing the wrong thing. Would Jesus want to have universal health care? Yes. Would Jesus want jail to be a form of punishment or rehabilitation? Rehabilitation, he says. Would Jesus want more lax regulation on corporations? Well, that one is complex. Where does that lead to? What has history shown? If you allow some entity whose sole purpose is to make money to make their own decisions freely, they will exploit whatever they can to that aim. It's not this includes your fellow man. Love the CEO who makes children work on the looms but don't enable him to do so. There are obviously less extreme cases, but it is obvious that Jesus would want people exploited, especially those who give so much to their community. Wouldn't want people exploited, sorry. And so when you say, where on the political map has this philosophy landed for me? He says far left. Farther left than the American left. To act in the way Christ would agree is the way to act, leads you far away from the right. 2 plus 2 still gets you to 4 as much as 2 to the second power. That was a lot to take in. Here's my thoughts. I think Jay Briggity would be great on the Unity Party cabinet. I think he brings some serious thoughts and some serious notions that would challenge my own views. So I think working together, if we truly believe we're deriving everything from Jesus, which it seems like Jay Briggity is attempting to do here, I think we're on the right path, I'll admit humility. I won't admit humility. I will humble myself and let our listeners know that I don't know everything. I know it may seem like it, but I'm just a dude.
I did think putting all these modern day, all these modern day political situations up and saying Jesus would definitely want us to do this, Jesus would definitely want us to do that. I think it's tough. I think you gotta look in the Bible and, read it, study it, and say, hey, this is what I think that Jesus, commands us to do, and this is how it applies to this, rather than here's this modern day political issue. Jesus would 1000% want us to do this. Where does it land me on the spectrum? Far left, farther than the American left, which I don't know how far, I don't know what country's left he's saying that he's, maybe Russia or China. I don't know how you get more far left than the America's far left. But yeah, I think he would bring some diverse viewpoints to the cabinet, and certainly the cabinet meetings would be a bit spicier with Jay Briggedy on board.
Yeah. So I think a Scandinavian left is farther left than a United States of North American left. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think it would be healthy to have Jay Briggedy on the Unity Party cabinet. I agree with you. What we can't do is apply political situations that are not definite. Like there's not a definite answer to Jesus would 100% say do this, because quite frankly Jesus hasn't 100% said to do that. So that's the importance of seeking the counsel of many, being wise. And you're going to want, if you're just in a bubble that the counsel of people you're seeking out is all agreeing with you and is not telling you the truth, then you need to get out of the bubble. I think Jay Briggedy would challenge anyone that's not farther left than the American left. I think Jay Briggedy challenges the left of America. I think Jay Briggedy challenges the right of Russia. I don't know Australia's political views, but I bet Jay Briggedy challenges Australia too. Maybe we should have Jay Briggedy in a circle of all prime ministers, all country leaders in the world, and Jay Briggedy just goes one by one talking.
Just obliterates each one of them. He'd be like, who was that girl that went to the UN about
Greta
climate
Thunberg.
change? Greta Thunberg. Except it would be Jay Briggedy addressing the UN.
You know
that would make for some good television.
Correct. We need to make it happen. Jay Briggedy to the United Nations conference, or whatever they call it. The assembly.
Summit.
The summit. The UN summit. We call Jay Briggedy up. And everybody who wants Jay Briggedy, go ahead and recommend this podcast. That's a good idea.
Oh, man.
So Jay Briggedy. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I feel like we could get Jay Briggedy and Tom Lane on a Patreon episode of this podcast. Would go absolutely bonkers, bro.
That would make history. Yeah. Jay Briggedy, if you're listening, and I hope you are after you've interacted with us so much, I want you to know that we love you deeply and we love you generously. And we appreciate your comments just as much as we appreciated them last week. So keep up that work. Yeah.
That work.
So tell me.
Well, I've been watching reality TV.
Oh, yeah.
You've been watching reality TV?
I've been watching it, a little bit of it, yeah.
You've been watching some Bravo? I'll say this week on Winter House, man, it's just good. I feel like Southern Charm, you've got to use your brain a little bit because you're connecting the cobwebs of the relationships. Winter House is like, I don't know half the people here, and they're just having a good time, you know? So it's fairly mindless is probably the best way to put it. I mean, probably not the greatest for my cognitive, development, but it's good TV and I enjoy it. So
you only have 1 year left of cognitive development.
That is true. Once I reach 25, it stops for good. And honestly, I don't know if I'm going to develop anymore, so it's probably already stopped, to be frank with you. But this week we had Tom Schwartz, who is from Vanderpump Rules, and he is arriving at the house, and they kind of mesh it in with the reunion of Vanderpump Rules. And so when he arrives at the Winter House is like a week or 10 days before the Vanderpump reunion. And everyone knows how the Vanderpump reunion, how that unfolded with Tom Sandoval's cheating scandal and all that. And so, as a quick breakdown, Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz are like best friends. And Tom Sandoval was like cheating on his girlfriend, who they've been together for 7 or 8 years. And, you know, rumor has it that Tom Schwartz knew about it pretty much the whole time and covered up for him. So a lot of women are definitely anti Sandoval, but also hate Schwartz because he covered it up, supposedly. And so he shows up at the Winter House, and all these people know the rumors going around. And I thought they were going to hate him a lot more than they did, but he's just such a likable guy. He meshed with the rest of the people at the house really well. But he gets there, and like a couple hours after he arrives, he goes on a grocery trip with this girl named Katie, and they start to flirt. And he brings up this interesting point that he's hitting on this girl named Katie that he's known for like 2 hours, and his ex-wife is also named Katie. And so I think that's a bit of a mental block for him, and the rest of us, our minds were blown as well, that he certainly has a type, but maybe the type is just chicks named Katie, you know?
It could be.
But yeah, that was an interesting dynamic to watch. Also, another observation was, I mentioned last week that 2 or 3 of the girls that they brought in were from below deck. And these girls, their everyday life, they live in these tiny quarters, and all they do is clean. Like, that's their job, is to clean all day. So typically, summer house, winter house, they have these parties on the weekend, and there's just trash everywhere. There's empty cans, pizza on the floor, just madness. But this year, they do the same thing, but all the girls from below deck wake up at like 5 in the morning and just clean because they're OCD, they can't stand it. And the rest of the cast just wakes up and they walk in, they're like, man, this place is spotless. This is great. I'm like, I don't know who planned this. Kyle Cook, if you planned this, you're an absolute genius. But nobody is cleaning because the below deck girls just get up so early and just clean the whole house until it's spotless. So I think that's been really a genius move by the producers.
Yeah, it definitely eliminates drama for sure. I was watching that episode, and I feel like that would be me. Because the woman said cleaning for her is like therapy, and after you get done with all that big partying, just waking up early in the morning and cleaning, spick and span, oh, there's just nothing better. And I don't know, I think me personally, I would love to do it alone. I think that's my downfall, is whenever 2 people are cleaning, it's too much. I just want to clean and be alone with my thoughts about the previous night, you know?
Is it that, or do you just want the recognition? You don't want to share the recognition with anyone else? Because that would be me. That would be 1,000% me.
I don't care about the recognition.
To bed, I want to clean so I get all the recognition.
I think I care about the noise that's being produced. So if someone's cleaning and they drop a plate, I'm like, you buffoon, why'd you drop a plate? And really, they're just trying to help out, and I treat them poorly. I'm speaking from experience, of course, because this has happened in my life where I do this, and it's a problem. So it's a public confession of sin, what I'm doing at the same time right now. But anyway, that's me.
Well, lead us into a little Southern Charm, because we saw, honestly, there's a lot of times when I watch Southern Charm where I'm like, man, I just want to hang out with these guys because it looks so fun.
Yeah, these guys, the gentlemen of the Southern Charm cast, they went on a guy's trip. Some call it an adventure, some call it a hoopla. But needless to say, I think some got the heebie-jeebies after this trip, or during this trip even, because there seemed to be some gossip around Austin and Olivia. And as we've talked about, Austin and Olivia used to date one another, and then they broke it off. And now, for the first 7 episodes of this season, they were on pitiful terms, not speaking to one another, mad at each other. But then there's the gossip around town that Olivia's cardigan was found in Austin's sleeping quarters, and it just became, on the guys' trip, a distraction and a point of tension among the gentlemen. And there's a lot of other things going on at that same point, but it's fascinating. I don't really have an explanation of it. I don't know if you do, but I would love to hear your thoughts on the cardigan.
No, I think it's tough because, Olivia feels betrayed because, Austin and Taylor, after he broke it off with Olivia, Austin and Taylor were, I guess fooling around is a phrase to use, but then he's like consoling her since her brother died, and maybe it, unfolds or goes farther than they thought. And when he has a friend over at the house the next day, they're like, who's that cardigan belong to over there on the ottoman? And turns out it was Olivia's. So it's not a good look for him. He seems possibly like a little more of a D-bag, if that's possible, than what he previously was.
Watch your language.
Sorry. Did I say D-bag? I meant D-back, like Diamondback, like the World Series.
Like a snake.
That's what I said. But yeah, this whole season is just a trash Austin fest, and really, he's kind of bringing it on himself. He's really showing his true colors here.
I would say there's a lack of emotional intelligence. You cannot take advantage of someone going through emotional tragedy. And it seems as if he's doing that, or done that. This is in the past at this point as they're airing the show. But, yeah, not a good look. I wouldn't recommend it for rekindling a relationship, but I'm not Austin.
Who knows what's going through his head? I have a good idea, but no one really knows, I guess.
It's true. No one really knows. Maybe not even him.
Certainly possible.
So as you know, this show's been going on for 15 weeks now, and here at Quite Frankly, we oftentimes talk about how important a quiet time is every day. Now, thanks to Brett and I, we have created a tool that will help you remain consistent in your daily walk. Now presenting Quiet Frankly, a daily devotional written by yours truly to help you stay consistent with your quiet times. These devotionals will help you deepen your faith through Scripture and provide wisdom that we have accrued over our combined 47 years. We also slip in some funny anecdotes and shameless merch plugs along the way. Go to flobo.com to get your first monthly installment today. And let me tell you, the time we've spent on these devotionals have been some of the sweetest times we've spent with one another. And our tagline, loving you deeply and generously, this is that fleshed out. And I think you, the listener, are going to love this, quite frankly, deeply and generously. And so we just can't wait to launch this and hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for this launch. I think they're going to sell like hotcakes. But yeah, who doesn't want to, wake up every day and say, look, I'm going to do this devotional. I'm going to do my quiet time. I'm going to read through it. It's got scripture that goes along with it. There's a little, what is that? go to Flobo.com to buy a sweatshirt. Oh, back to Romans. You know what I mean? So it keeps you on your toes, but
It does.
it's I think it's a really great way to unpack the word every day.
Quite frankly, it doesn't get much better than that.
It's true. Well, what song of the week do you have prepared for us about Martin? Because I'll say this, our running playlist every week, it's just getting hotter and hotter. I listen to it all the time, and it's just it's a great little conglomerate, a cosmic gumbo of all these songs, and it's just so good.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could put us on the streets of New York City with a mixtape, and you want to talk about things that would sell like hotcakes? We would even provide syrup for these hotcakes. It's hard to beat this playlist, or this collection, as they call it. But the song that I'm going for this week, and I've heard it for the first time today, actually, it's called Forerunner by Bryn. And let me tell you something. I don't know the messaging of this song. I couldn't figure it out. But the tone and the sound and the vibes of this song are unreal and unmatched. You want to listen to this song and be sad? Impossible. You want to listen to this song and get energized for the day ahead? You want to listen to this song to go run 4 miles? You want to listen to this song to go hike 20 miles? You want to go listen to this song to run a marathon in 4 minutes and 30-second pace? You want to listen to this song and go drive in the F1 Formula Racing and win your race in the tire world? This is the song for you. Now, don't do it in a Forerunner, though, because you'll probably crash and die in an F1 race. But this song brings out the desire to just run through a brick wall. And if we know anything about brick walls, you know if you run into it, it's gonna hurt. But with this song, you run straight through it. And it's special. So go listen to it. That's my pitch.
Wow. I would say be careful where you listen to this song. You don't want to be, I don't even know, you don't want to be probably holding a baby and listen to this song. Who knows, you may just take off and try to run through something. That's not, healthy for the youngins. So
at least put the baby on your back if you run face forward.
Right. Like a backpack, man. That's a great word. I'm excited to listen to this song. Maybe I'll listen to it. I'll add it to my workout playlist, if that's something that it would go good in.
It would, I think.
Man. Well, I'll say my song is a little different vibe. It's a country song. I like country music. Okay, so if you're listening to the playlist and you say, "What's with all the country songs?" Blame this guy. But the song is Diamond in My Pocket by Cody Johnson, old Kojo. It's just a good, it's just a good riding around song, makes me think of my lovely wife as well, mainly. But it's just a good, heartwarming song. I don't really know what else to say about it. I really enjoy listening to it.
Well, I don't think I'll be listening to it if it makes you think of your wife, because I'm still trying to recuperate my relationship with my wife after that tasing incident and Tiki Tom's lava cakes.
I forgot about Tiki Tom's hot wing lava challenge, man. That was so good.
Well, let me tell you, we're running out of time, but for our listeners, next week is going to be a special episode. We're going to have the developers of Orca Energy Water on the show with us, and we're so excited, and we can't wait for you to listen. Any final words? You have 10 seconds.
No, I'm excited for next week's episode. We got some great questions cooked up. I think they're really cool dudes, so we'll see how it goes.
Amen. Well, as always, we love you deeply and we love you generously, and we'll see you in 7 days.